Bolesina. I am assistant professor in the area of oral pathology at the Faculty of Dentistry, National University of Córdoba, Argentina. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving us the possibility to present the work we have been doing. It is the result of the effort of a great team of clinicians and researchers, which I represent at this moment. Oral squamous cell carcinoma is the most prevalent subgroup of head and neck cancer. It represents a major cause of morbidity and mortality worldwide. Despite several advancements in the therapeutic approach, the 5-year survival rate is around 50%. Recent years have seen an increase in the incidence of cancer in young people without the most frequently associated factors. There are previous lesions, the so-called oral potentially malignant disorders, and risk factors involved in the development of cancer. It arises as a consequence of multiple risk factors such as tobacco, alcohol, chronic inflammation, not necessarily of infection origin, among others. Malignant tumors are often characterized by a highly suppressive microenvironment that impairs T cells' function. Like receptors are an evolutionary conserved family of transmembrane receptors, key players in the initiation of the immune response. Besides interacting with microbial molecular structures to trigger the inflammatory response, they also recognize self-molecules that are released, secreted, or exposed by cells that are suffering stress or damage. Thus, they are at the crossroad between immunity and inflammation, being important components of immunotherapeutic strategies designed to awaken the immune response against tumor antigens, but also mediating chronic inflammatory process involved in the carcinogenesis and promotion of the neoplastic lesions. However, there are few studies trying to associate the enhanced expression in oral squamous cell carcinoma with the presence of carcinogenic stimuli. For this reason, we have set as our objective analyze the expression levels of TLR9, 4, and 2 in oral squamous cell carcinoma samples by immunohistochemistry and correlate them with different carcinogenic factors and immune infiltrate. This is a retrospective, observational, and analytical study that includes 13 biopsy samples from patients with a pathological diagnosis of oral squamous cell carcinoma as primary tumor. All the patients attended at the stomatology service of the Faculty of Dentistry of the National University of Córdoba, Argentina. Cumulative tobacco use was evaluated as follows. A subject who smoked more than 200 cigarettes during his lifespan was considered a high consumer. In the same way, alcohol consumption was registered taking into account the type and quantity of alcoholic beverage consumed. Patients consuming more than 60 grams of alcohol per day were considered heavy alcohol consumers. To all collected tissue samples, standard immunohistochemistry staining was performed to CD3, CD8, granzyme B, TLR4, TLR2, and TLR9. For detection of the TLR receptors were used rabbit polyclonal antibody. Each panel shows representative pictures of increasing scores from 0 to 3 according to the different intensity expression levels of TLRs. We measured TLR2, 4, and 9 expression in our tumor samples and classified our cohort of patients showing high, equal or greater than 2, or low, less than 2 score expression levels. We then quantify the total number of CD3, CD8, and granzyme B cells and analyze their spatial distribution, such as stroma or intratumoral, by conventional immunohistochemistry. These cells were visualized and quantified using the ImageJ software. The results show the average number obtained after counting infiltrating cells in 3 fields per patient. To study the location of CD3 and CD8 T cell infiltration in the stroma or intratumoral, 3 fields per samples were visualized and scoring system was established. Each sample received 2 scores corresponding to the location of the cells, 1 score for the stroma and another one for intratumoral. Different statistical tests were used to analyze the different variables. Regarding the result of the characteristic of our patients, the distribution of the 13 samples according to gender was 1-to-1. The mean age of the patient was 63 years. When analyzing alcohol consumption, 30% of the patients were heavy drinkers. In terms of smoking habits, 50% were heavy smokers. We then analyzed the epidemiological data collected to calculate the 10-year survival rates in our cohort according to these three TLR expression levels. Interestingly, patients whose tumors show an enhanced expression of TLR9 but not of TLR4 or TLR2 show a significant decrease in their overall survival. It could be argued that the pattern of survival observed could be driven by the stage of the disease. However, as can be seen in Figure B, there are no significant difference between the expression levels of TLR9, 4, and 2 in tumors of different stage, indicating that in our cohort, other factors besides the conventional disease stagings drives the overall survival. To see if the expression level of TLR was somehow related to alcohol consumption, we divide our cohort according to their alcohol consumption and analyze the frequency of tumors expressing high or low levels of TLR9, 4, and 2 in each group. We found that heavy alcohol consumers show a significantly elevated proportion of tumor expressing higher scores of TLR9 staining, as you can see in Figure A. A similar exercise was done splitting the cohort according to the levels of tobacco intake in each group, as you can see in Figure B. Interestingly, both heavy alcohol and tobacco consumers show a significant reduction in their 10 years overall survival. We then quantify the total number of CD3, CD8, and granzyme B cells and analyze their spatial distribution, stroma versus intratumoral. As can be seen in Figure A, the total number of cells in this population is not modified between tumors showing distinct score of TLR9. Similar results were obtained when we analyzed the infiltration of immune cells categorized according to their alcohol consumption levels, as you can see in Figure B. However, whereas the number and location of CD3 T cells do not vary significantly between patients with different level of alcohol consumption, the location of CD8 T cell is modified in tumor samples from heavy alcohol consumers. Indeed, they seem to develop tumors that not only express higher levels of TLR9, but also exhibit a reduced number of intratumoral CD8 T cells, as you can see in Figure C. This is clearly demonstrated in this figure, which shows that in our study cohort, first, the majority of heavy alcohol consumers had tumors with high TLR9, and second, tumors with high TLR9 that belong to heavy alcohol consumers had significantly lower number of intratumoral CD8 T cells. As we have seen throughout the presentation, one of the most interesting results found is the shorter survival in those patients with high TLR9. This led us to look for a relationship with the factor studies such as tobacco, alcohol, and immune infiltrate. An intriguing aspect of our result is the selective location that CD8 cells displace in TLR9 high tumors from heavy alcohol consumers. It can be hypothesized that the expression of certain chemokines is modified in TLR9 high tumors from heavy alcohol consumers that could be impeding the recruitment of these cells intratumorally. Another possibility would be that the activation state of these CD8 cells were inefficient or that excessive alcohol consumption reinforced TLR9 signaling and all the pro-tumorogenic effect involved in this pathway. In any case, our results open up new avenues to investigate the possible interaction between consumption habits and immune characteristics of oral cancers and provide new evidence to consider TLR9 as a therapeutic target in oral squamous cell carcinoma. Thanks for your attention.
I have a question for all the panel, and can we start with Nicolas? So I'm interested in your thoughts of the prospect for the clinical translation or application of the biomarker that you were investigating in relation to prognosis or risk, and Maybe Nicolás, you would like to comment on that, the potential for translation of your work?
Thank you for the invitation. My English is so good, so maybe I need to translate. The importance, we thought that the importance of our work is that the immunotherapy is one of the most estamos, o sea, creemos que la parte de la inmunoterapia viene de la mano de entender un poco qué es lo que está ocurriendo en el microambiente tumoral. Creemos que un poco es tan importante, o sea, es importante el estudio de qué es lo que ocurre puntualmente a nivel de lo que son las células tumorales, que es el cáncer oral propiamente dicho.
Okay, I'm going to translate until there. Now, he's saying that, I mean, his idea is, he's very interested in immunotherapy. And when you're studying immunotherapy, what you have to do is to focus on the tumor microenvironment and how the tumor microenvironment is composed. So this is the most important part of it. And this is the translational part of the work that they're doing.
Y a su vez, con lo que estamos tratando de establecer por ahí cuánto influye en el microambiente tumoral los factores carcinogénicos que hemos tratado de estudiar, principalmente el tabaco y el alcohol. También hemos estudiado el tema del HPV, el tema del mate, la irritación volcánica crónica, y la idea es tratar de hacer algo de aplicación clínica, no tanto de laboratorio, pero sí por lo menos tratar de entender qué es lo que ocurre a nivel del organismo del paciente, estudiando todas las variables en el paciente.
Okay, I'm going to try to summarize that. So the idea is to have a better description of the tumor microenvironment and to try to analyze all the characteristics of the tumor microenvironment and how to associate them with the different risk factors, including smoking, alcohol consumption, mate consumption for them, HPV, inflammation, and to see if there is any association or relation between the presence of those risk factors with the different histological characteristics of the tumor microenvironment. And in that way, if we have a better picture of the tumor microenvironment, then we can decide if there is a possibility to improve the treatment using immunotherapy for those specific patients.